Antes de iniciar, tenemos interpretación en español, inglés y portugués a su mano derecha.
Before we begin, we just want to let you know we have interpretation into English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And you can find your equipment on the left.
Bolivia, Brasil, Honduras, Panama, and Peru. My name is Luz Ángela Garcia.
And I'm David Cepeda. And we'll be your hosts for this hour. An hour of stories that teach, that inspire, and that move.
This is the 8th edition of Superheroes of Development, an initiative that recognizes the monumental work of our clients and partners, a space to highlight and reward how they successfully tackle complex challenges.
And created lasting impact. Since the start of this initiative, our superheroes have stood out for their ability to capture, put into practice, and share lessons learned from projects they've executed with support from the IDB, IDB Lab, and IDB Invest.
And those lessons have not stayed in one place. Other projects across the region have been able to replicate and build on the operational knowledge. Let's now welcome our exceptional IDB Group members of the jury. Miguel Coronado, General Manager of Andean Countries.
Ana Maria Ibañez, our Vice President of Sectors in Knowledge.
James Criven, General Manager of IDB Invest.
Laura Vélez, Finance Administration Unit Chief, IDB Lab.
And Alexandre Meira da Rosa, General Manager of the Office of Strategic Planning and Development Effectiveness.
We realize that the task you have today, it's almost impossible. Good luck, everyone.
That's right, David. It will be a challenge to select 3 winners among these 6 incredible finalists.
Yeah, our finalists faced challenges that seemed pretty much impossible at the time.
In Honduras, a school program designed to prevent dropouts had to pivot fast. They found students already in imminent danger. So prevention was not enough. They redesigned on the spot, turning urgency into protection.
In Panama, rural electrification was more than an engineering feat. Heavy rains made roads impassable, and equipment had to be hauled through rivers and mountains. Yet, they brought light to communities once left in the darkness.
In Brazil, faced the unknown of global pandemic. No one could predict the numbers, yet their hospitals adapted to monitoring and care in real time, showing that flexibility itself can be a life-saving tool.
And in Peru, Internet for All, imagine what competitors said was unthinkable, and a shared network in remote areas. By daring to collaborate, they connected millions in rural communities to education, health, and opportunities.
In Bolivia, indigenous entrepreneurs, most of them women and young people, built collective businesses from scratch. They learned to plan, save, and invest together, turning vulnerability into financial inclusion and resilience.
And finally, in Panama, again, a cybersecurity project lost its main partner overnight. Instead of collapsing, they rebuilt trust, redesigned their strategy, and proved that even crisis can be a platform for innovation.
Each of these projects taught us something vital. Challenges are not the end of the story.
They are lessons, Luz, and those lessons are the real superpowers. Knowledge that makes the next project, the next team, and the next community stronger.
All right, let's begin. We now have the opportunity to hear the stories of our 6 finalists.
And please, as you listen, keep in mind that our jury will be evaluating how effectively each project was carried out and how much creativity and innovation the team's demonstrating in addressing the challenges they faced.
Ahora pasamos al español para darle la bienvenida al equipo de Honduras.
Bien, y este es un proyecto de la División de Educación.
And this is a project executed by the Division of Education. This project strengthened the socio-emotional skills of more than 3,700 students in 60 schools. Our young people, as a product of violence and migration, our young people have had their self-esteem and self-image affected. So mental health helps them not only to make the right decisions, but also to take care of themselves and know how to say no when they realize they are at risk. This has been very useful for me to challenge our young people so that they can really see who they are. They must grow up. in places where they are valued, where they can smile, where they can dream, grow, go to university, but not in situations where violence arises and affects them from the family to the school, from the community to the school. In Honduras, being young is not easy. Of every 100 adolescents that need to be going through their third year of basic education, only 45% are able to enroll. And we're not talking about just statistics. Behind each statistic, there are stories that hurt and things that are on edge. So many young people who face poverty, lack of opportunities, violence, many drop out because their way to school is taken over by gangs. Others, early pregnancies made them drop out. And many because they feel that migrating is the only out. Every young person who drops out of school, that's a door slammed. We not only lose a student with each door shut, but also a future physician, community leader, or teacher. As a mother of 2 young people, when I visit adolescents who we work with, I can't help but think, what if they were my children? What would I do if they were trapped in that situation? In order to change the reality, with the support of the IDB, the government of Honduras launched a program learning how to improve in school life, a series of emotional skills where they're taught working with teachers and parents. We want the school classroom to be once again a place where people feel protected and can learn. We're not here to just fill in reports. We're here to transform lives, just like Ana Maria, a young person, 13 years old, who had behavioral problems and low academic performance. Once she received psychological assistance, we realized that she had been a victim of abuse since the age of 5. To be valued and listened to changed everything. She improved her grades, her behavior, and she regained confidence in herself. So that's the focus, to give young people, adolescents, to let them think that they are important and they can build a new life for themselves. Laura, a school guide, and although the program already concluded in her school, she continues helping those most vulnerable children with the tools and skills that we gave her. So based on our methodology, she continues to provide psychological assistance in these healthcare centers and motivating teachers to incorporate practices that incorporate socio-emotional skills among children. And she also organizes events with adolescents who are at high risk of bullying, also gang recruitment, and even more violent crimes, to listen to them and to foster in them skills to take care of themselves, make decisions, and resilience. We also see her continuing to support these networks with community stakeholders so that they can help those most critical cases. So her commitment shows us that when we provide the trust and skills, the impact is going to transcend the programs and becomes a living force within the community. So it's thanks to these efforts, almost 4,000 adolescents now see school as a refuge, a safe place. This program has shown us that the meaningful transformation begins with simple but powerful steps. A teacher who listens, adolescents who feel valued, community that decides to protect their children, each adolescent, deserves to build their own future and freely. And as teachers, we will continue to work fully convinced that we can change our country one young person at a time. Thank you very much, and congratulations on that excellent project. We would now like to invite the team from Panama. It's an energy program launched by the ministry under the executive. It's a rural electrification program that focuses on providing electric energy grids to isolated areas in the region where coverage barely covered 78% of the country in 2017, and the indigenous communities significantly less coverage. In Panama, turning on a bulb means that when we didn't have light, we had to go around with flashlights. I have kids in school, and to iron them, I had to heat the iron on the stove because we had no other way. And now I have my own iron, and that already helps a lot. Well, honestly, when we got home from school, the first thing we did was study, because once it got dark, it wasn't possible anymore. But now, with light, we can get home, rest, eat, and at night, take our time to study. Everyone here is happy now. We all have our washing, and before we didn't have any of that because we couldn't even buy a TV. Where would we do it? We are all happy because most of the houses around us now have electricity, most of them. This is the way we lived. A 7-year-old who knew what it was like to live without electricity when, with his family, he moved to a house with a lot of needs. And of course, in the darkness, that day, Eusebio saw his mother put in an electric circuit with some improvised extensions, and he was able to turn on one single light bulb, providing a little bit of light. On that day, it was that first spark of electrical connection, because Jose realized that there are other people like that who are capable of turning adversity into opportunities. In Panama, thousands of children grow up in the dark trying to study under a kerosene light. And we know that the lack of electricity helps to perpetuate poverty, limits education, and it condemns whole families to live with fewer opportunities in other cities. This situation needs to change at some point. With the passage of time, Jose became an electrical engineer. That young people who was studying in the dark and was called by Aplusmo Control to head a national project, the Rural Electrification Program, known as Sparks of Connectivity. This project with Aplus, there are 7 contracts, and it maintains a presence in the 10 provinces of Panama, benefiting more than 36,000 families, providing that small but bright spark of hope. But none of that would have been possible without the IDB's support. The challenge was monumental. You had deep rivers, dense rainforests, and paths that would disappear with the torrential rains. We thought at one point it was going to be impossible to move transformers and cables to the most remote communities in Panama. But in order to develop this project, there were some key factors involved: innovation and creativity, together with the strong community commitments. We used a mapping system in order to identify each one of these communities. So we provide multimodal transportation using these bulldozers and 4x4s. In other words, to create more passable roads. But there was one fundamental factor, that human value, the knowledge of these communities and surroundings. These were the factors that led to a successful outcome in this project. Thanks to the Chispas de Conexión, we now have light. Thousands of families now rely on electric energy supplies in their rural communities. Today, young people can study until late. Small businesses are now generating new sources of income, and health centers now have a system that is able to store adequately vaccines. And this is where we realize that if we combine the support to the educational, financial sectors, and the security sector, we will be able to make a difference. That gap, those inequalities between urban and rural communities are now shrinking. And those children, well, this child, Jose, and that's me, and I'm sharing this story as a proud Panamanian because I'm living proof that energy and electricity not only turn on light bulbs, but they also turn on bright futures. Thank you. Very inspiring story, Jose. And now it's Brazil's turn. This is a health project in the middle of an unforeseen pandemic. We weren't able to project the number of patients or lives to save, but to focus on what was really important, and they showed that flexibility can be true and it can happen.
O que mais assustava com as notícias era a possibilidade do colapso do sistema, da incapacidade de atender a quantidade de pessoas tão grande doentes de forma simultânea.
Nós passamos 2 dias no Einstein, ficamos imersos lá durante 2 dias. O que a gente viu foi um hospital se preparando, tá? Até o presidente do Einstein usou uma frase: a gente só sabe que a gente está preparado quando a guerra começa.
Essa é a medicina, você não pode fugir da medicina. Bem ou mal, você é médico. Tem que estar ali, tem que trabalhar. Tem paciente dependendo de você, tem família dependendo de você. Custe o que custar, essa é a sua função. Então adapte-se a ela e dê o máximo que você pode fazer. Porque a profissão médica é essa.
Durante uma pandemia,
During a pandemic, what happens when the ICU occupancy reaches 100%? I saw this happen in São Paulo, and that was the night when Joanna, before she had to receive treatment for COVID, squeezed my hand and said, "Doctor, please tell my son I love him so much." And I remember that night very well. I was hurt from using the mask all the time, and my facial protection was foggy. And this patient could not breathe. She was in our hospital, our field hospital in Pacaembu, which was built inside a soccer stadium so that we could deal with this pandemic. I squeezed her hand back and I told her, "Joanna, we will do everything we can for you." And that day was a critical day. All the ICUs were full, and Pacaembu had not been designed to treat such serious cases like hers. So in those minutes, we could not make any mistake. So she received a tube. She was intubated, and we guaranteed an ICU bed for her. So when the ambulance reached the final destination, everything was ready. The ventilator, the bed, the teams were there. And during the pandemic, the public hospitals that were managed by Albert Einstein hospitals increased their capacity to over 1,300 beds, and 230 of them were ICU beds. And from 2020 to 2021, of the almost 50,000 hospitalizations, a city in Sao Paulo, which has 12 million inhabitants, this hospital was responsible for 7% of the hospitalizations. Do you know what this means? At the peak of the pandemic, anybody who was treated at the Einstein Hospital had a greater chance of surviving, up to 30%. So we saved up to 70 families by doing this work. And I promised Joanna, and this is the patient telling her son that she loved him very much through a video call that we were able to offer her. And communication is also a way of taking care of people. But none of this was easy. We didn't have enough time. The teams were tired, and we barely had resources, but we did learn 3 lessons. The first one is that a coordinated network can deal with risks and offer care, and that good protocols will give the team the safety they need in order to act when the pressure is huge. And humanity is not just a small detail. That hand that Joanna could squeeze that night reminds us, healthcare workers, why we do this work. And Joanna got better. She didn't need the ventilator anymore, and after a long hospital stay, she went back home. And a few weeks later, I was going into the elevator and I saw my neighbor, and she told me that her sister had survived COVID because she was treated at the Einstein Hospital. And I asked her, "What is your sister's name?" And she said, "Joanna." It was the same patient. This was not luck. This was preparation. It was humanity. It was leadership. That night, when the entire world was going to bed in high alert, in Brazil, we proved that good protocols, adequate care, and dedicated and humane teams can really make a difference between despair and life, whether it is for a neighbor who lives right next to you or going way beyond the borders in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Roger. Parabéns.
Ahora queremos invitar al equipo de...
We would like now to call the group from Peru, an IDB Invest project implemented by the private company Internet para Todos. In Peru, while 91% of households in Lima had internet access in 2018, in rural areas, the figure was barely 36%. And thanks to this project, more than 3.9 million people in 19,000 rural communities now have access to internet, improving education, health, and productive opportunities. In Peru, women wove their way into the digital economy. It's very important that you are moving this forward because there are remote villages that have never had a cell phone. They have never had been able to communicate with their families, and that feels good. The most beautiful thing is that I can communicate from so far away. I have my little children who live far away, and I can hear them through the cell phone. If it weren't for that, I wouldn't hear them, not even their voices. The arrival of technology is very important to me. as it enables us to communicate faster in case of an emergency that may arise here. And with communication, you can do so many things. Not having communication is as if our eyes were blindfolded. I would like to introduce you to this person, Edison Cano. He had to walk 3 hours per day, more than 15 kilometers, to get to the top of a mountain in Calcuto, in the Sierra in Peru. It was the only place where he could actually have a signal so that he could connect to his online classes to continue to get educated. Edison is the age of my son Santiago. My son Santiago, he's never had to walk so long to be able to continue to get educated. And that is a huge difference between Edison and Santiago, and it shouldn't be that way. Unfortunately, is the reality of thousands of boys and girls in the deep areas in Peru. Edison didn't want privilege. He wanted a right, the right to be able to continue to study and to be able to connect. And that is the essence of what we do with Internet for All. We transform connectivity into a right so that it stops being the privilege of only the few. A few years ago, in the world of telecommunications in Peru, digital inclusion in rural areas like Calcuto was impossible. Operators were competing for the same areas, they were duplicating efforts, and they were wasting energy. Places like Anacuto was out of the map. There were few people who lived in those areas, and it was really hard to access. But Internet for All arrived to change that paradigm thanks to 4 partners who believed in us, be it in IDB Invest, Telefónica, Interatel. They believed in our purpose, they believed in synergy, and above all, they believed in an innovative model, a disruptive motive that seemed that it was a crazy dream. And they started to cooperate instead of compete. We started sharing infrastructure. We brought connectivity to those areas that were really far beyond. We connected with other organizations. We brought renewable energy so that we wouldn't affect the environment. That's how we managed to connect Canicuto. And today we have an antenna that connects the entire community. But this is not an isolated example. In 6 years, Internet for All has been able to connect more than 4,000 people in 19,000 rural areas, in different areas all over Peru. 4 million people, actually. And 4 million people in 19,000 rural areas. We managed to show that we can bring connectivity in a sustainable way and in a way that can be replicated. And Internet is able to bring so many opportunities in education, health, and obviously commerce. But nothing has been easy. We have been able to overcome barriers, cultural barriers, regulatory barriers, economic barriers, but we managed to do it. We managed to get to so many rural areas. And also we have been able to show that thanks to community dialogue and partnerships, we can achieve many things. We learned that bringing connectivity is to include the voices of the community, and to bring innovation is also a huge cultural transformation. And of course, we managed for Edison so that he could actually doesn't have to walk so many hours a day to be able to connect to his school, and he can do so from home now, and that's part of the digital world, just like my son Santiago does. Because Internet for All is not that we only bring antennas, we bring hope, we bring happiness, and we bring so many opportunities for development. Because Internet for All, we believe that synergy can overcome so many barriers, because when we connect, we improve lives. Thank you. Fantastic, Jimena. Congratulations. We come to our penultimate superhero, who comes from Bolivia, an IDB lab operation implemented by Fundación Profin. It demonstrated that financial inclusion is possible when it is built from the community. More than 1,200 indigenous entrepreneurs, mostly women and young people, joined together in self-managed groups to learn how to save, invest, and manage their own sustainable bio-businesses. In Bolivia, the forest taught us that protecting it is the best investment. The forest is our wealth, our common home. The cusi is a wild plant that we don't need to sow, but at the same time, it's also a plant that gives us life. The project kept growing, so we trained more women, and then an association was formed, because starting a business is not easy. You have to be brave to do it. We try to encourage young people as well, so they also learn how to do this, because that's gold for us. We take the care of our trees, which give us the air, and that is wealth to us. It's a message for everyone, including those who work with the forest management plan. Bolivia is the second country with the highest loss of native forests in the world. In 2024, more than 10 million hectares were devoured by fire. This area is similar to the area of Cuba, and the fire did not only devastate forests, trees, but also animals, sources of water, and the hope from indigenous communities who depend on the forest to live. Throughout this reality, we created the project Bio Businesses Guarayos to show that it is possible to produce without destroying. The story that I came to tell you today deals with Bartolina, an indigenous woman, was Guaraya, who decided to transform the fruit of cusi into an entrepreneurship called Babawasu. And the name is difficult to pronounce for us even, but for her, it sounds like a dream come true, a dream that changed her life, and it today inspires her community. And everything started in 2020 when the pandemic with COVID-19 really hit us hard, and Guarayos, just like many other indigenous communities, entrepreneurs lost all their income. They were excluded from the financial system, and they had no options to support themselves. And to make matters worse, the crisis of 2023 started. Inflation, the lack of fuel, and to top it all the fire forests of 2024 that destroyed so many millions of hectares and interrupted activities for over 3 months. Throughout all this adversity, Bartolina suffered an irreparable loss, the death of her father, her biggest source of support, and that was a time of pain, but also the beginning of a path towards resilience. In spite of the temptation to forget her work, she decided to get up again and to really honor the memory of her father by working twice as much. And the project opened the door to what she needed, a model based on trust and self-management with seed capital, technical assistance, financial and environmental assistance. And that's how Bartolina joined a group of other entrepreneurs who learned to save, to invest, and to really self-manage collective resources. In each of all these meetings, she discovered that the community coming together is their biggest strength, and that the forest is not a border or a limit, but rather the source of prosperity. the impact of Barbaguasu goes beyond those who created it. And this model allowed for women who lacked opportunities before now are agents of change. And many of them sell shampoo, oils, cosmetics that are produced by Bartolina, and they are generating income and they sell in other markets. Today, Bartolina dreams with studying biochemistry so that she can perfect her products and to bring Guarayos to the next level. Every product that Barbaguasu has sold is not just a cosmetic, it's a story of resilience, dignity, and commitment with the forest. This story reminds us that we are on the right path, that we should continue to support more people like Bartolina who foster sustainable development. Bartolina is a clear example that our model works, and that when one woman has the support of her community and those partners who believe in her, that she can truly become a true superhero of development. Thank you. Thank you, Ingrid. Great project. And now our last implementing team representing Panama. This is an IDB lab project implemented by the Numu Corporation, an initiative that reminds us that crisis can also open the door to innovation. By rethinking strategies, prioritizing the essentials, and strengthening capabilities, they managed to empower young people, boost business resilience, and generate transformations that will last long after the crisis is over. In Panama, digital security became a gateway to inclusion. How did I feel when I found out? I was very excited. I felt really well. I was so happy. And the first thing I thought was, this is a great opportunity to put all my knowledge into practice and also to keep learning. Honestly, I saw that as a great opportunity at the time to expand my knowledge on cybersecurity. I've always liked not only just to learn things at university, but to go beyond that. And if you see an opportunity, don't think, I'm not ready or I can't do this. I can learn along the way. I can reach my goal. I feel really happy. We're going to keep learning and keep growing. And I'm really excited to be here because I dreamed about this. And finally, I made it happen because I feel that all my work and effort from all these previous years, they finally paid off. Digital economy is the shortest path between difficulty and well-being. And we walk together in less than 18 months with our users. And we have shown this in the program with IDB Lab and with the Cybersecurity Center. But this story, they have faces and eyes. Let me talk to you about Suleima, a young woman who was selected to get our scholarship, and throughout her training, right in the middle, she became pregnant. And that pregnancy made her think that abandoning the study was the only option. But then we had the no one left behind protocol. And we provided a lot of flexibility and confidence. Cesar's story was different. He was a hard worker. He would work with his father out in the weather, and he had discovered his passion for cybersecurity, and he did so on the internet. And then he decided to apply for our scholarship. He didn't have any training, any diplomas, any education, but oh my God, what passion, what enthusiasm, his self he's self-taught, and then that is actually so much more than lifting all these bags of mud that he used to do. And we were not wrong when we selected him. He was extraordinary, and he actually inspired other people, and he actually became our first employee in our operations center for cybersecurity. So even before 18 months, he gave us a bittersweet news. He was leaving Numu, but to work in the most important bank in Panama. And nowadays, Cesar has an apartment in a nice residential area where he lives with his parents, and he moved away from that area where he grew up. And just like our users continue to grow, we had to face a very unexpected storm. Our industrial partner was going bankrupt. And it was one of the most important scandals in cybersecurity. And we actually learned about it in the media, and just overnight. Our pipeline of $3 million, our support was destroyed in less than 2 weeks, and in an industry where trust is everything. So we went from being in a great spot to being radioactive pretty much, and we thought that was the end. But a call with your IDB lab team, we actually got back to our origin. We were founded in 2018 in Nicaragua as an entity for civil society, so that our young people would be the first ones to join digital economy. So the program was going to finish, and we were going to complete it regardless of what would happen with the company. So without liquidity and with so much debt, like about $1 million in debt, we had to pretty much use our own personal funds and to renegotiate our debt. We had to restructure the company, and above all, we had to clean up our reputation. Let me share with you a very powerful tool if you find yourselves in this situation. Absolute transparency with everyone and in regards to everything. And then Numo got back to its essence. We all became promoters, and we created a new partnership with a very good partner, and we expanded to the Dominican Republic, and we created a new image and new messaging, the guardians of your digital well-being. And amidst all this adversity, our new motto was born: protecting the vulnerable. And today, I'd like to share with great pride and with great gratitude that we overcame that crisis, and that Zuleima was able to graduate with her baby in her arms. Cesar continued to improve, and 404 young people, out of which 40% were women, they improved their lives forever. And it was them who were trained by us, who created awareness and supported more than 200,000 SMEs in Panama about all the cybersecurity issues. And they brought the program to 8 out of 10 provinces in Panama. This recognition, and thank you to the IDB, came. And then we had the World Economic Forum that recognized the efficiency of our model, and it positioned Panama and our partners, IDB Lab, the European Union, and it's the lead of digital transformation and inclusive transformation. Our model is a scalable model, and we focus on every country in our region, because every young person that we bring onto digital economy, believe you me, it is a family that has been sustained for the rest of their lives. Every young person that we bring onto the digital economy represents a family that will be sustained for the rest of their lives. Our next stop, El Salvador. And now, do you see why I told you that digital economy is the shortest distance between vulnerability and well-being? Thank you very much. Thank you, Javier, and congratulations.
Our jury faces the difficult task of selecting just 3 winners.
They will be looking at each team, how they executed their projects effectively and with resilience, demonstrating creativity and innovation in tackling the challenges they were presented with.
Challenges such as shifting priorities, geographical constraints, unexpected setbacks, and community skepticism.
And although only 3 winners will be selected today, everyone here, everyone, is a superhero and a winner in our book. And each of them has left us with some superpowers as well.
You are right, David. Their lessons learned and operational knowledge.
Absolutely. So now we kindly ask for 5 minutes to give our jury the time that they need to finish deliberating and making this tough decision.
The jury has made its decision.
Can we please take a seat here? And now, we invite our Knowledge and Learning Division Chief, Lorena Rodriguez-Bu, to join us on stage for the awards.
Welcome, Lorena.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have the great honor to have the envelope with the names of those who are the winners. And in a time like this, obviously, it's already been decided, but none of the teams that we saw today got here just because of luck. And they have all shown us how to systematize, how to share lessons learned about what works or what does not work, and how everything is key. The Superheroes of Development celebrates those great lessons learned, but above all, the results that transform lives. And they replicate our commitment to be a bank that shares and uses evidence to teach and to execute and implement better development projects. At the IDB, we transform learning into impact. And what we have heard today are powerful and inspiring stories. But above all, they remind us why we call them superheroes. So at the end, I'd like to actually ask for an applause for all of the finalists. And now the time has come. We're going to know who are the winners for Superheroes of Development 2025. By IDB Lab, communities that in transformation, self-governance, and financial inclusion. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations to Bolivia. By IDB Invest, Albert Einstein Hospital, the private management of public hospitals. That was Brazil, actually. And by IDB, Sparks of Connection, Electrifying Hope in Panama's Remote Communities, Panama.
Felicitaciones. Muchas felicitaciones a todos los equipos.
Congratulations to all our finalists. Congratulations to everyone.